bought the Tamiya animal set with the idea that it would be nice to try painting an animal. However, I did not have an idea yet at that point what use they would have eventually come to until I got this UFO themed idea. The UFO in this diorama is 3D printed Haunebu flying saucer whose file I bought from Etsy. The print quality of that flying saucer on my FDM printer was not very good, which will you see later in this video. But without further ado, let's start watching the video how this was created. So I placed the Tamiya animals on the diorama base, which is just generic insulation board, and then I started sketching the road that would end with a cow and that the other animals would then watch. I made the road perspective-like because I had the idea that I would also make a background picture that would be drawn if in perspective. Using a hot wire cutter, I cut the road a bit deeper and left even edges and blanks on the sides. I had the idea that this would be a fairly flat pasture road, like they usually are. Since the road leads to the pasture through the fields, it's natural that the base type can be rough, so I coated the road with A-Mig Vietnam ground texture paint because it has very coarse texture. And on the other hand, there was still some left in the jar. And since it was more of a European soil, I had to paint it brown later. Since it is an animal pasture, it has to have a fence, so I designed and printed a fence for it. Because the whole idea of the diorama was to be a bit idyllic and clean, I ended up painting the fence with titanium white acrylic paint. I will put the fence on the Qualts DT service you can download from there. To fill the grassy area so that it would not look so empty, I got the idea to make a pile of stones here that I collected from the yard. You can see such pile of stones in the field of openings, so let this be some kind of realism addition to this work. Later in this video I will add some buzzes and fillers as well. I took these stones from a pile of stone material brought from the sandpit, so the color may not match the right one. So I decided to paint the stone grey, and I did it by just mixing black and white acrylic paint together, nothing more. Finally, when the paint was properly dry, I did a dry brushing on the surface of the stones with the white acrylic paint, very lightly. Dry brushing, especially with the white paint, makes the object a bit three-dimensional, meaning it highlights the details nicely. Finally, I reached the work pace that I strangely like very much. Maybe this will fade away at some point. By the way, do you like spreading static grass in some special way? Write in the comments how it feels to you. But to the point, I used the Green Stuff World Terrain series 4 to 6 mm deep green meadow grass for this. Very good looking stuff. It has a little lighter and darker in it, so the result is not as artificial as in the completely monochrome static grass. This grass is settled very well in place, I recommend. Just as a reminder, all materials can also be found in the description field. One more side and then it will be ready. I think the other side that I already did looks pretty good, don't you think? And now when I looked at grass again, it still looks really good. Next I would paint the lamp leg or the UFO holder that I twisted in the right shape. I made that leg from a car brake pipe whose outer diameter was about 6 mm. In any case, a very suitable choice because it is stiff enough, and in addition it is hollow inside, which allows the LED light wires to be hidden. After that I installed a battery case, a switch, and glued the lamp leg to the wooden base of the diorama. I attached the actual diorama to the wooden base with hot glue. At this point the buses are not installed in the diorama, but I will install them in a moment. Okay, so now we jump into the middle of the UFO making. It is a 3D FDM printed Haunebu flying saucer, which according to some conspiracy theories was a Nazi flying saucer from the Second World War. And indeed, in the middle of the Second World War, some people interpreted the unusual things seen in the European sky as the Germans' new technology. What you see me doing now is drilling holes for the UFO's weapons. This is because I print the UFO about half the size it was originally designed, and for this reason the barrels of the weapons became so thin that I had to replace them with the pieces of toothpicks. This time creativity solved the problem. You can see how poorly the printing succeeded, and I have printed very few things. So with better experience it would have certainly turned out a little better. Well, anyway, I sprayed the whole Haunebu first with Tamiya primer and of course I did not believe that it would fix the surface quality, but I got some idea of what it should do for it. As it turned out, I had to fill the entire upper part of the UFO with Tamiya filler, several times. Finally, the surface became smooth after the sanding rounds. I have to say that sanding that filler was much easier than if I had started sanding plastic. Before painting, I drilled the hole through the whole UFO for the UFO's leg and the LED light inside. And then I enlarged it from the bottom with 10mm drill bit so that the light could spread nicely downwards. I had an idea that I did not implement, and maybe I should have done, which was that light would have shone from the UFO's side windows. Well, it's good enough like this, I think. There is always something to add in these things, but then you just have to admit that if you want to get this done, you have to keep up on your own wishes. It was time to paint the UFO next. I chose Tamiya PS41 as the paint, which is bright silver in color. I think metallic paint suits the UFO very well, and maybe chrome colored paint would have suited better, but I did not have any of that now. Well, here we go then. It's time for the Tamiya animal set that I painted: a horse, a cow of course, a sheep and a doggy. The models look very natural and high quality, a nice set overall. After gluing them I had to use a little bit of Tamiya putty to cover the seams. Well, I took the cow as an example for painting, and I painted all the animals except the horse with white matte paint first. And now you can see that I have already painted black Ayrshire style spots with brush, and now I just add more detailed colors with the dry brushing method to make the animal look a bit more realistic. Dry brushing is very important part to make the paint as natural as possible. Of course, I had to fix some of the paintings and to do them again. This was not easy at all. The yellowish color is brass, and it has nice suitable shade of gold and yellow, and there is no real painting instruction for this, so I thought it would fit well. Then I added a little grey to shade the joint areas of the limbs a bit. Here is the result, which I think is pretty okay performance for the first timer. And here are the rest of the animals. A fun experiment, and there were still some unpainted animals left in the package, so I can practice this more later. Well, the horse looks a bit like a chocolate pony. I just forgot to mention that I varnished each animal with Tamiya XF86 flat clear airbrush varnish at the very end, just because the paint is quite sensitive. Okay, we are almost done now, and before the final assembly, a small test to see that the light is directed correctly, and at the same time to see where to glue the cow. The LED light is surprisingly powerful, but not so powerful that you could read the book with it. Then I glue the rest of the animals, and the diorama is almost ready. Thank you very much if you watched it this far, and I hope you will watch the next diorama video too, which is actually already in progress. Thank you!